Who is it that people of this generation look to as their heroes and their champions? We have such a broad array to choose from. Perhaps we choose one from the sports world or the entertainment world. Perhaps it's someone from the professional world, teachers or doctors, business leaders. Perhaps from the political or the historical arena. Some of our forefathers like George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, or world-renowned people like Martin Luther King or Mahatma Gandhi. And of course, as Christians, we have our own champions in the saints, like our beloved patron St. Anthony, the courageous martyrs and teachers who over the years have spread the good news of the gospel throughout the world, and of course, our Blessed Mother. We have so many people we can set up as our champions and our heroes. You know, just as John the Baptist had his own array of champions and heroes, there was Abraham, their father in faith, and Jacob, and all the other patriarchs. There was King David, who defeated enemy after enemy in the name of God. There was Solomon, known the world over for his wealth and his wisdom. There were the prophets like Jeremiah and Elijah, who were counselors of the kings and rulers. There were the Maccabees, who expelled the Greeks from Israel and restored the temple. And of course, the biggest champion of all the Old Testament, there was Moses. Moses, that led the people from slavery to Egypt. These are the people that John the Baptist would have read about. These are the people that he would have looked to for inspiration. So no wonder he had to send emissaries to Jesus to ask him if he was truly the promised Messiah. One would have thought that John would have already known that he wouldn't have to ask after all. Wasn't it his own mother that said to Mary at the time of the visitation, "And how is it that the mother of our Lord should come to me?" And didn't John himself proclaim by the Jordan River, "Behold the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world"? And yet it seems he had his doubts. John asked the question, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another?" I think maybe John was looking at another kind of Messiah, one more aligned with his own ideas of what a Messiah would be like, one more aligned with his own champions, his own heroes. His Messiah would be more like Moses, who through signs and wonders persuaded Pharaoh to set the Israelites free. This Jesus didn't seem to be interested in challenging the Romans at all, let alone the emperor himself. Or perhaps John's Messiah was more like King David, who defeated enemy after enemy and brought glory to Israel. Or maybe like the Maccabees, that expelled the impurities and the sacrifices that the Greeks had imposed upon their temple. But this Jesus, he was unlike any of those messiahs. He spent his time in small towns and villages of Galilee, far away from the centers of power of Rome or Jerusalem. His companions were fishermen, not the kind of people that could change the world. John's Messiah was going to gather the wheat into his barn, but the chaff he will burn with unquenchable fire. But this Jesus, he didn't seem to be the kind of Messiah that the Jews needed at the time. And remember too that at the time, John was in prison. How many hours did he spend alone in the darkness there, wondering how he was expected to herald the coming of the Savior when he was locked up in captivity? Perhaps when John was asking if Jesus was the Messiah, he was also questioning his own identity. Was he truly the herald of God? Or was all he lived and worked for, was it all a mirage, a flight of fancy? You know, isn't that how our minds work sometimes? In those times when nothing is working out the way we planned it, when things are going in a different direction than we wanted, and there's nothing that we can do about it. Don't we wonder sometimes if all our efforts were wasted? If anything we did was worthwhile? If only then we know enough to be like John the Baptist and turn to Jesus and to come to him for assurance. Because Jesus did give John an answer. It wasn't perhaps the answer that John would have expected, maybe not even the answer that he wanted, but it would have been a great consolation. Jesus identified himself by using a quote from the prophet Isaiah, the prophet that spoke so frequently and so beautifully of hope. And John, who knew his scriptures well, would hear in his heart the words, "Strengthen the hands that are feeble, make firm the knees that are weak, and to those whose hearts are frightened, be strong. Fear not, here is your God." Powerful message. I think sometimes we have to ask ourselves, who do we come to see when we come here to church? Do we come to see a Santa Claus Messiah, a Messiah who will fulfill all our wishes and dreams? Do we come to see a self-righteous Messiah who will fulfill our own self-righteousness with material wealth and comfort? Sometimes I think we like to make our Messiah to be like the Messiah that we ourselves would like to be. Maybe a vengeful sword or conquering hero. But that's not the Messiah that we find. We find our Messiah in a stable in Bethlehem. We find our Messiah in a small carpenter shop in the small town of Nazareth. We find our Messiah in Jerusalem, hanging on the cross. Yet, he might not always be the Messiah that we want him to see. Sometimes he may be a Messiah that we don't even like. But he is the only Messiah to whom we can turn to for true peace. For it is in those times in which the world turns against us, when we are imprisoned with failing health, with loneliness or abandonment, with setbacks and disappointments, with grief. It's then that we turn to those words. Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind regain their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news proclaimed to them. And we can take consolation in those words, because we have something that John didn't have. We have the resurrection. It's in the resurrection that we have our hope. It's in the resurrection that we have our assurance that what God has promised to us is and always will be fulfilled. You know, tucked between these two readings today, these two readings of hope, you find a little excerpt in the second reading from the letter of James. And what does James have to tell us? Be patient, brothers and sisters. For it's only with patience that we experience the fullness of the fulfillment of God's promise. Only with patience that our crooked ways are made straight and our rugged ways made smooth. In these waning days of Advent, our children are saying, "Oh, I can't wait for Christmas to come." And probably as many parents are saying, "Oh, I can't wait until all this hubbub is over." But wait, we must. And that is what this Advent season is all about. Waiting for Jesus to come into our hearts on Christmas Day and looking forward with patience, with perseverance, with prayer, and with joyful expectation to that day when all of God's promises are fulfilled for all eternity.